background about Summa. Summa is a passionate team of solution architects, strategists, software engineers, project managers, designers who transform business by making software that works. We are about 200 people and growing, and have been doing this for about 18 years. We design and develop solutions that are strategically positioned in the market to create value through customer engagement. Our teams include many different types of experts who collaborate with our clients to innovate disciplines using a wide range of methods from design and engineering. I'm Skip Shelley. I'm a strategist and designer, also adjunct faculty, industry advisor at Carnegie Mellon University, Masters in Human-Computer Interaction program. And I'd like to introduce my colleague, Adam Menzies.
Thanks, Skip. So I'm a solution architect. I lead a lot of our strategic customer engagement projects and initiatives, really with a goal to transform businesses through the use of technology, like Salesforce, mobile, cloud, big data technologies that we'll talk about a little bit later. So we're going to start today by telling a story of what it means to engage customers using things like mobile, cloud, social, big data in situations that you may not expect.
Thanks, Adam. So the stakeholders of a large global organization have assembled for an important event. This particular organization has inspired loyalty for a very long period of time. It's 2005, and their new leader is being inaugurated, Pope Benedict XVI. There are not many mobile devices among the inauguration attendees, as you can see. The devices that are there are not yet considered fully featured smartphones. Looks like maybe a razor in the bottom right there. Fast forward to 2013, to the inauguration of the next Pope, Pope Francis. In 8 years, fully featured mobile devices are now ubiquitous. This event is likely attended by some of the same people right in front of the Vatican. The attendees create and share massive amounts of data in real time. So what changed from 2005 to 2013? Well, let's go to 2006, 1 year after the inauguration of Pope Benedict. Google CEO Eric Schmidt first uses the term cloud computing in an industry conference. Schmidt said, "What's interesting now is that there is an emergent new model. I don't think people have really understood how big this opportunity really is. It starts with the premise that data and architecture should be on servers. We call it cloud computing. The data should be in a cloud somewhere." But the term was actually used in 1996 at Compaq by marketing executive George Pavoloro and technologist Sean O'Sullivan. There's George there, probably holding the business plan where he coined the term cloud computing. It's really not important to settle the argument about who coined the term cloud computing. What's more important is that we understand how it is developing on a path while mobile is developing. Let's take a look at 2007. Researchers at IDC released a white paper titled The Expanding Digital Universe, a forecast of worldwide information growth through 2010. The authors predicted rapid data growth over the next 3 years. They built their vision for big data on the idea introduced in 1944 by Wesleyan University librarian Fremont Ryder in the paper The Scholar and the Future of the Research Library. In this paper, Fremont used the term information explosion to describe the increasingly rapid creation of data. He estimates that American university libraries would double in size about every 16 years. Incidentally, Arthur Fremont Ryder was born in 1885. The origins of the term remain in some dispute, but we've been aware that massive amounts of information are important to conduct a business and satisfy customers for a while now. Then 2007, Apple releases the iPhone, and it's a catalyst. Even though it only supports native third-party apps, it liberates us to create and share information like never before. You might remember the skeuomorphic design with that funky-looking YouTube television on there. It changes our relationship with information through the phone, with the cloud, security issues, social networks, and lots of other technologies. We begin to have a different relationship with companies and organizations in 2007. Fast forward a little bit to 2014. companies now are seeking new alliances to engage their customers better. They're recognizing that the customer is starting to gain more power. Here, IBM and Apple are embracing a shift of power to the customer. Each is emphasizing its historic strength. IBM for its middleware in the enterprise, and Apple for its history of individual user experience design excellence. B2E, B2B, B2C systems now begin to bow to what customer experience advocates are calling B2Me systems, or the B2Me era. Customers demand to instantly get highly usable data from previously segregated systems like ERP systems, CRM systems, shipping systems, purchase history, user account management systems, etc. They want it all on the screen at the same time.
Right, and those are legacy companies that are doing that and doing that for a long time, making shifts. Other companies have been formed out of this movement, like Salesforce.com. They set at the pace of innovation around technologies that focus truly on the customer. Their service model changed the software industry in the early 2000s, and they're really leading the way for what they call the Internet of Customers. And the amazing thing for me working on the Salesforce platform is the pace that they can move at. They leverage technologies that we've been talking about already to rapidly develop functionality for 3 major releases every year. They release functionality at the pace that they see it in need from their customers' customers and from their own customers as well. So that approach led Salesforce to being awarded Forbes' most innovative company for the past 4 years as they lead this movement. But this speed, agility, focus on customers used to be considered exceptional, I think, until today. But we're really at a tipping point where customers are beginning to expect this from every customer or every company. Whether those interactions come from Fortune 100 companies like these, or they come from retail companies of any size, whether they come from business partners or one of their suppliers or even their church.
Yeah, so it brings us back to our story, Adam. The unplanned perfect storm of the development of these technologies has changed the customer into what IBM and Apple called an individual enterprise. The relationship between customers and companies is shifting, and companies need to start embracing that shift. We begin as customers to expect organizations to understand our individual context and anticipate our needs. Think about Amazon's product recommendation engine. It's an early example of technology that recognizes me as an individual by looking at the data that I've created through my interactions and transactions with that company and suggest products that I may want to get next that are related. We have more power now, and the companies are moving to respond to it. Just like the attendees at the inaugurations here, we're involved in spontaneous co-creation that engages people who are not even, at the store when we're shopping, in the same way that the attendees are generating content here that didn't even attend this event.
Right, and as they do that, how much more data is generated in photos, video, text, tweets, retweets on their devices, and then rapidly sharing these things through social tools?
Yeah, I mean, it's not just the data that they're generating deliberately through explicit interactions. It's all the data that they're generating, all the metadata, I should say, that they're generating that's associated with it. And they can be attached to their context. What time of day is it? What's their location? What was the last thing that they looked at? Who in their social graph is also looking at those same things.
Right, and that metadata, that data about the data, is what really creates interesting opportunities for sophisticated analysis and for companies to take advantage of that to provide better customer experiences. So how many people were not at the Vatican, even in 2013, that feel like they were a part of the event? Like they can say, well, I felt like I was there, or I was there, even though they weren't, because of these technologies. They're experiencing this event very intimately through others that were there. And I think in 2013, if you look at the number of people that experience this event through traditional media like television, print, or radio, the people are able to experience this in a totally different way, and they build relationships around that experience. So when these people at the event are sharing out data, and then people that receive that data then share it out to more people in their social graph, they start to make relationships with people that, other than that, they would never come in contact with these people. They may be halfway around the world. And we see that in customer engagement as well. As we deal with our customers, they start to build customer communities and partner communities with people that they otherwise would have never been able to collaborate with or come into contact with. And those are really lasting relationships that they relate to their relationship with you as a company.
Yes, we've entered a new era in which mobile has been the catalyst for other technologies like cloud, social, analytics, and we haven't even begun to scratch the surface of the automatically generated data that comes from the sensors in our physical world, part of the Internet of Things. So, inauguration attendees are also customers. These customers expect to use the same technologies at the inauguration that they use, a day later on their phones. By 2013, customers are well on their way to becoming individual enterprises. Around that time, or slightly before, Forrester declares that the age of information has been superseded by the age of the customer. And we design nerds declare that we've moved from document-centric design to information-centric design, and now to human-centric design. So clearly, attention to the individual human is becoming really paramount to not just the designers, but the developers, the companies, people that work in marketing departments. It's kind of spreading throughout companies because the shift in power forces us to respond to kind of as a whole. And why would we expect to relate any differently with a company than a religious organization to which they belong? Customers will have apps on their phone, that they decide what will be there and how they're going to sit next to one another. So I could have a Facebook app, Target app, Amazon, Zappos sitting next to the Holy Bible and an app for my Cub Scout troop.
Right. So everybody that's been paying attention to this, and unfortunately some still aren't, and they're being a bit left behind, but everyone that is paying attention seems to recognize that something significant has happened here. The shift is significant. So knowing that, how do companies truly engage customers? And we believe, as we work through this, that just as organisms are made from molecules, which are made from atoms, the granularity of customer engagement platforms can be decomposed in a similar manner. So we see what we're calling the input to insight to action cycle as the atomic element of engagement. Companies cannot embrace shifting power or have these interactions and continuously give customers value without this atomic level, this building block. These cycles then build 4 qualities at the elemental level. These are what we're calling imperatives to customer engagement. And these are found throughout the customer journey, represented here as a Mobius strip. You'll notice this strip, we use it because, like the journey, there is no beginning or end, nor is there any defined entry point. So we look at these a little bit deeper. This input to insight to action cycle, like we said, is really the atomic element of customer engagement. This building block is required to build long-term relationships with customers that increase in intimacy through time. So companies that seek this long-term commitment, this true relationship, will design systems that accept customer inputs, analyze them to generate insights, and then act upon those insights, which then cause more inputs. This is in constant motion, just like the atom. The protons and neutrons are constantly moving around at high rates of speed, same thing here. The input can be derived from a direct interaction or transaction with a customer, or it can be derived through things that are more implied or inferred, like activity on their social graph, or their geolocation, or the time of year, something that has nothing even to do with them, but we know it affects their environment. These insights are then synthesized from those inputs. Customers want companies to select the next action. They want companies to know what information they're going to need to make their next decision minutes from now before they even know they need that information. The cycle is continuous, and it's imperative to support the capabilities that we'll talk about next. So these 4 imperatives that we're laying out, I think it's important to understand that we see these as kind of the capabilities that you must have. If you're, as a company, are going to look out 12, 18 months and say, we want to be a company that's looked at as strategically engaging our customers and someone who's really thriving in this new environment, we feel like you have to do these things. They are not ordinal. We do have them numbered here, but you don't have to do them in a linear fashion. So you'll see as we go through them, there is some amount of interdependency among them because it's really hard to do one of them without doing at least 1 or 2 of the others in some fashion. So the first one that we'll talk about is embrace shifting power. So we've talked a lot so far in the arc of the story we told about how power has shifted, and mobile is really the catalyst for that. Companies really need to embrace this, not just accept it. They need to not just act knowing it's there. They need to recognize the opportunity that this now presents that was not available before and act on that. So building a customer engagement platform involves really embracing this shift, and we see it in things like budgets moving from CTOs over to CMOs, but really understanding what that means for the customer, how the customer views your company.
Yeah, and embracing shifting power positions an organization, both in terms of their capabilities and their culture to enable co-creation. Customer engagement platforms need to offer customers a way to achieve the outcomes that they define as individuals at the time that they define them. So, for example, they need to help customers paint a room or build a deck or mark a coffee cup or even assemble a college curriculum. We're seeing a lot of this kind of co-creation in the manufacturing sector, but we're also seeing it in the services, what I'll call information-intensive businesses like delivering a college education. Customers want companies to be good stewards of their data while they're co-creating, as if you're operating kind of like a bank. But they also want the companies to enable them to share that data socially. So if I want to share some simulations of a room I want to paint with my wife and my neighbors to get their opinion, I should be able to do that at will. They want the benefits of complex software for free, basically, free complexity. Companies will deliver simple experiences by contending with complexity and wicked problems on behalf of their customers and allowing their customers to bring data that is outside of their systems, kind of in their environment or in their worldview, to the co-creation activity, and that's where companies can capture it as input, as Adam alluded to earlier, in the input, the insight to action cycle.
Right. So the third thing is anticipating continuous value exchanges. Understanding that actions from customers are not isolated moments, but rather a continuum or a wave of experience comprised of those actions and content that a company feels an individual customer may need next. So these continuous exchanges can be deliberate, such as the customer providing feedback through a company-provided community online, or they can be more subtle, such as using geofencing with mobile devices and a mobile shopping app to understand the preferences of customers that are currently physically in their store, or where those customers are to deploy additional sales staff to those areas of the store. It can be you using one of your product distributors' buying history juxtaposed with your current inventory excesses to provide instant offers when they log on to your online partner community. But the key is to recognize who your customers are and understand they feel that they are providing constant value to you, sometimes in currency, but a lot more often they're providing that in information. And they expect constant value in return. Sometimes in products or services, that's the obvious one, but they also expect it frequently in aids in making decisions, in feeling that you know what their wants and needs are through organic communications and being ready to provide that when they most need it.
Those are really good points, Adam. So anticipating continuous value exchanges is kind of like passing the basketball to where their team member may be on the court. And when that pass gets there, we need for the experience of acting on the action that's been served up by the customer to be effortless and context aware. So companies must offer customers these effortless interactions and that are aware of their location, purchase history, usage history, maybe even their social graph and other users that are like them. Perhaps even some assumptions about the outcomes that individual customers intend to realize are important. This is a topic that outfits like Gartner and Forrester have been describing now for close to a year. The customers are increasingly intolerant of friction in a process, such as latency or poor usability, or the wrong combinations of information, or even catching errors. If they perceive that they're wasting time, it kills engagement. So We're showing we're using the Mobius strip to describe the journey that the customer is on, and while we'd like to own that journey, it's more than likely what a company will do is be invited by the customer to be on their journey with them. And in this journey, we're really trying to surpass the relationship that we built with customers in the past, where we're simply touching them or having transactional touches. And we're trying to do more than just assemble a series of touches and deliver some, pretense of effectiveness with an A over top of that. Customer engagement means more than making usable and effective moments for customers. These are really just table stakes. Engaged customers believe that companies know them intimately. There's an authenticity there that they perceive from the company. They believe that the companies know them intimately, but appropriately without being creepy. And they also believe that companies can help them solve and achieve outcomes.
Right. So as we move through that journey, the input to insight to action cycle happens many, many times over a potential lifelong relationship with a customer, where their orientation with a company, where companies may attract them through some touch before they choose to engage with that customer, that company, where they sell them something, that could be a product or a service, and then when they service that. And you'll notice there's no entry point, there's no exit point, so the person may go from service back to sell, they may go back to attract to sell, but with each pass through this journey, through this experience, customers expect that companies will continuously become more and more intimate with them and understand their actions and what their desired outcomes, as Skip referred to, are, and be ready with information to support those things. So customer engagement platforms must support the collection of data at high rates of speed and be able to analyze, give insights, and then support the right actions to serve a customer.
Right. So we're watching some of your questions come in, and while they do, we'll assemble those. Adam, you wanted to talk a little bit about the other information that Summa offers around customer engagement?
Yep. So this is one webinar, but a way to get constant information from Summa and our software around customer engagement, how we're using it on projects, how we're seeing customers be successful is the blog. The post we have highlighted here is one by Skip and myself, but there are many out there. This one, we believe, really gives you questions that you can take to an executive and start strategic discussions around how you may or may not be engaging your customers currently. So that can be found at our website, and they'll get to some questions that have come in.
Well, let's take the first one here. Here goes. Does this view of customer engagement apply in all industries? Your thoughts on that, Adam?
Yeah, sure. So as we've worked through this, I think we've been re-emphasizing again and again that everyone is a customer. Right? So this could be your employees, not even an outside person to your organization, or it could be suppliers, it could be distributors, it can be, the obvious one is retail. When we say the word customer, people think of retail right away, but it could be, as we saw, parishioners at a church even. Anyone who is providing what they perceive as value and expect value in return, and they expect to have some sort of long-term relationship with you. And the more frictionless you can make that experience for them, the more value they're going to be ready to provide.
Yeah, I mean, my comment here is that over my career, and particularly here at Summa, I've seen examples of customer engagement in, as we mentioned before, manufacturing, education, financial services, healthcare. So I think, as Adam said, here's the red flag you should look for when you're wondering if this is the customer engagement problem. Does somebody perceive themselves as a customer who will receive value from another entity, whether that's an individual or business unit or an entire company? It's probably a customer engagement problem that should be, or opportunity, I should say, that should be considered.
Right. So the second one we have that has come in is, let's see, how can you best measure true engagement? Are there best practices, metrics, etc.?
Well, as a designer, we have lots of qualitative techniques for going out and getting the voice of the customer. Those are certainly remain valid, but there are some issues with them. in the sense that there's some latency. It takes us time to collect that data, go out into the field. It can be expensive. And in some ways, the customer engagement platforms of the future find ways to build in those data collection tools to know, how people are feeling as they move through an experience with you digitally, or if they're moving across channels, say in an omni-channel relationship. But do they feel like they have a fragmented or disjointed experience between their phone engagement through a web app on a laptop and then inside the physical location with you? Adam,
I think one area where we look at metrics a lot and how they've been changing throughout this experience is in customer service specifically. So I think when we look at metrics that we're used to talking about, like first call resolution is a good example where in a call center, we think if someone calls in and at the end of the call, we ask them, did we resolve your issue? And they say yes, and we hang up, that's first call resolution. But to the customer, they may have gone to the website to try to self-serve first. They may have looked up information through a Google search and then called the company when they became frustrated and couldn't find an answer. To them, they've been transferred 3 times. So things like the customer effort score used instead of first call resolution really help us understand, and that has to extend even beyond that. So a customer may call back in with a related issue or something that we know, though they resolved that initial issue, resulted later in additional issues. That's really not first call resolution. And we need to be able to measure those things and understand those flows as they move, like Skip said, across channels and across issues, so they get a real sense of how that customer was served.
Yeah, I'd like to key in. This is a very cleverly worded question because there's the word true in there. I think that what this question is addressing is that, for years we've had lots of data about how that's generated through customer usage of software. And I think one of the problems that we've had is that interpreting the meaning of that data is sometimes difficult. Page load times, the number of hits, that kind of stuff is, that's all been kind of the basic units of measure in the past. I believe in the future what's going to happen is that as part of a predictive analytics activity, companies will have to first do the hard work of listening to their customers and decide what their strategy is for delivering value. And as they're deciding that strategy, they're going to have to articulate metrics that they can reasonably capture in software as the customer experiences the value that's being delivered from the company across multiple devices, and even through interactions that have no devices, or through interactions where employees are supported by software, but they are really the intermediaries between the company and the human customer at the end.
Yep, absolutely.
I think we have time for one more question, maybe. Let's see. Is there a roadmap on how and where to begin with the customer engagement initiative? I'm chuckling because I think about the answer that our CSO often gives to, when we ask, where do you think we should start here? Where will they improve? And the answer is always anywhere. Just start somewhere. Don't waste too much time figuring out which of the 4 imperatives are good to begin with, and try to do small things well and learn as you go. There's no way that we can build a dream machine here because this is all too new, I think, to all of us. And it's important to scope the size of an effort correctly and try to learn something fast, and especially plan to take some risks and plan to scuff up your knees and have some failures and learn. And hopefully, you can engage your customers better in the process and build through, say, an agile project, a way of incrementally releasing improvements to your engagement.
Yeah, and I think Summa, the way we approach projects from an agile methodology, really is the way that translates best into this. And if you go actually to the blog, you'll see a post on that recently, but how agile organizations can do this so much better because they're in that fail-fast mentality. They take in some sort of, it's very much input, insight to action, right? They take in some input, they figure out what they should work on next, they provide that small amount of value, and then learn from that immediately. I think that that's really the approach that you need to take when taking on these things, because as Skip said, it moves too fast for you to have some, you need to have a roadmap with guideposts and understanding and set where your goals are and what success will mean to you at certain points, but the day-to-day, you need to be moving at a much faster pace.
Yeah, one comment about the speed. I think the need to move faster than we've ever moved before now requires that we go to the market for major technical capabilities instead of thinking of developing everything ourselves. And this places enormous importance on software architecture and the ability to design architecture that will accommodate changes or put systems on a trajectory so that they themselves anticipate continuous change the same way we're suggesting that companies need to anticipate that continuous value exchanges with customers. So, evaluating that market supply technology with a strategy in mind is really the way to do it. If you're evaluating technology by looking at lists of features and costs, you're probably not making comparisons that are valuable to you, and you might be at risk of making an investment that will give you a negative outcome.
Yeah, I think that's where the as-a-service model can really help with that, because you can be more agile and be ready to plug and play things as needed. As you learn, you're going to learn more about this all the time. So you're going to learn more about what works for you and what doesn't, and what your needs are, and they're going to change extremely rapidly, unlike in the past.
Good point, Adam.
Okay, great. Thanks very much, Skip and Adam. This was a great session, and just wanted to thank all of you out there. A couple more notes. We'll be sending a link with a recording of the session in the next few days so that you can forward to your colleagues and share what you've learned here today. But please, if you have any questions on what was presented, contact us. We'd love to talk to you in more detail. And as Adam and Skip mentioned, www.summa-tech.com has a lot of additional resources and more that you'll find on customer engagement. Thanks, and we'll see you soon.